The tragic findings of Canada's residential schools have sent shockwaves through the nation.
News of unmarked graves has left the nation in mourning. Vigils, ceremonies and memorials have sprung up across the country.
Indigenous children were forcibly separated from their families and subjected to cultural assimilation, neglect, physical and emotional abuse.
I think one of the biggest challenges for a lot of Indigenous communities nowadays is making that reconnection with culture and language and ceremony, and understanding that those are all very beautiful things that can benefit us as a people. That relationship has obviously been damaged by, the history of colonialism in Canada, and it has been very difficult for a lot of people to find their way back to culture. And at the same time, there are a lot of different ways that Indigenous cultures have been appropriated by outside influences and have been, I think, maybe misrepresented or misused to really strip away the original meaning and spirit of what those cultures can be. So I think to repair that relationship, Canadians especially, I think, need to make themselves more aware of the history of this land, to, I think, familiarize themselves with the beauty and the diversity of all the Indigenous nations that inhabit this land that's now called Canada. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is just to forge relationships, make friendships with the Indigenous people in your community or in a nearby community, and find ways to not just celebrate that culture, but celebrate this relationship that now exists in this country called Canada. There's a spirit, I think, that we can all foster of inclusivity, of unity, and that was the original intent of many of the Indigenous nations that were coming into these relationships with the European settlers, right? So I think being aware of history and being aware of culture is one way that these relationships can proceed in a good way.